Welcome to your deep dive. We're really diving deep today into something I found super intriguing. Um, have you ever thought about truth being measurable by how healthy it makes us?
Definitely a thought-provoking concept.
Right, not just like personally healthy, but like a whole society.
Yeah, it's like taking truth beyond just facts and figures and connecting it to our well-being.
Exactly. And this speaker we're looking at argues that truth, it impacts us on so many levels.
Right.
Beliefs, the systems we live under, even what we eat. And the closer we are to what's true, the healthier we become.
It's like our well-being becomes the evidence. Makes you think, if something is making you thrive, there's probably some truth there, but when something creates disease, maybe it's a sign to reevaluate some things.
Like our bodies are trying to tell us something. And, the speaker actually shares this story. They were vegetarian for years, always felt drained, low energy.
And they were struggling with sleep, which obviously impacts everything.
Huge. So they switched to this meat-heavy diet. And they said it was like flipping a switch. More energy, better sleep, just felt right. It really makes you wonder, what was it about that way of eating that was more true for them? Values, heritage, something deeper.
Such a good question. Now, obviously, this is just one person's experience. We can't overgeneralize. But it does show that our bodies, they give us feedback. What's right for one person isn't always the best fit for another.
It's about figuring out what your own body needs, which can be tough these days with all the conflicting advice out there about what's healthy.
Absolutely. And this actually leads into another big point. The speaker, they're pretty skeptical of how science is used today.
Oh?
Yeah, they suggest research gets skewed sometimes, to fit an agenda instead of actually finding the truth.
Wow. That's kind of concerning when you think about it. Like,
hmm
we rely on science so much. What if it's not always as objective as we think?
Right. Just because there's research on something doesn't mean we're getting the full picture. We got to ask, who funded it? What were they hoping to find? Was there any bias?
Don't believe everything you read, right?
Huh.
This really resonated with me, though. The speaker specifically questions this big focus on cholesterol for heart health.
Way too simplistic, they argue.
Yeah. They say it ignores hormonal imbalances, which they believe is the real issue when it comes to heart health.
And that's where things get even more complex. Is hormonal balance really the ultimate measure of health? It's a bold statement, lots of debate about it, but it makes you think bigger picture for sure.
For sure. What if our current measures for health are missing something? It makes you wonder.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder about what we might be missing, and it gets even more interesting. The speaker then ties this to a personal story, how they built their own hierarchy of values,
Okay.
and how putting courage at the very top changed everything for them.
Ooh, I like that they use courage. It kind of highlights this idea that truth isn't just some intellectual thing. It's about action.
Exactly.
Like, are you living by what you believe?
It's that connection between knowing and doing. And get this, they don't just stop at personal stuff. They apply this to the whole of society.
Sure.
They're saying governments, they should constantly be measuring how healthy the society is.
Interesting.
Not just economically, but like the well-being of people.
Whoa. Imagine if a country's success wasn't just like GDP, but how happy and healthy its people were.
Right.
Mm.
Radical, but makes you think, what if governments were actually judged on that, on people's well-being? Different priorities maybe, different policies, a whole different world, right?
It's like we're holding up a mirror to the systems we live in and saying, are you really working for us? And if not, something's got to change.
It's a big question, for sure. And it makes us think about how our personal lives and these big systems, they're all connected. This isn't just about individual choices. This deep dive, it's about the structures that shape our lives.
It can feel kind of overwhelming, though. Like, how do we even start to challenge those systems? Yeah, it's a lot.
But that's where the speaker brings it back to personal change. Like, as more and more people start living their own truth, in their health, their values, their choices, it ripples out, creates a more truthful, healthier society overall.
It's like this beautiful cycle, the personal and the collective all feeding into each other.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, I know we've bounced around from like personal diets to whole societies.
It has.
But there's this one more thing from the source material I found so interesting. So the speaker, they say this whole truth equals health thing.
Yeah.
It's not just some like abstract idea.
Right.
They're saying it can actually show up in our bodies, like literally make us sick if we're not aligned with our own truth.
Ooh, that's powerful. Like our physical well-being reflecting our inner state.
Exactly.
And it makes sense, right? Think about stress, anxiety, totally emotional stuff, but it hits you physically.
Totally. Like that knot in your stomach when something feels off,
Mm.
or how stress turns into headaches. What if those are like signs, like we're ignoring something true about ourselves?
Whoa. So interesting. Like our bodies are trying to tell us something's not right. We need to make a change.
Right. Our bodies know more than we give them credit for sometimes.
Yeah.
But how do we even figure out what's out of whack? Where do we start?
$1 million question. No easy answers there. But this deep dive, it gives us some clues. Like really look at your choices, what you do, what you believe, and ask yourself, is this really working for me? Is it good for me, on a deeper level?
It's like a truth check on our own lives.
Mhm.
And maybe if we pay attention to how things make us feel physically, our energy, our sleep, even just like digestion, maybe we start to see what needs to change.
Totally. And it goes beyond just the physical, right? It's mental, emotional, even spiritual.
Hmm.
Are we living by our values? Are the people around us good for us? All these things play into it.
This deep dive, it's really got me thinking, truth isn't just something out there, it's part of us.
Totally. It's not just something you think about, it's something you feel, right?
Yeah.
And how healthy we are in every way. Maybe that's a sign of how close we are to living our own truth.
It's a lot to take in. But as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with this. If not living your truth can really make you sick, what are some ways, maybe small ways, that we're all kind of ignoring our own truth? Something to think about this week. See what you notice. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.